Hey everybody, how's it going? Hope you're having a lovely day. I dislike Section 1201 of the DMCA. That wasn't meant to rhyme, that's just the truth. The DMCA is a law that you're familiar with, usually because anytime you see those four letters, it just usually means somebody is taking away your fun. And here, Section 1201, what that does is it says that if you reverse engineer something that you bought and paid for so that you can get access to it again if it has been turned off or disabled by the manufacturer, if you're breaking a digital lock in order to do so, which is virtually any reverse engineering, that is punishable by 3 to 5 years in federal prison. This law came out in the mid-90s as a knee-jerk reaction to the media industry that was concerned about piracy. And when you look at the effects of that 28 years later, you can go to SoulSeek or BitTorrent or virtually anything, Usenet, and somebody who's almost computer illiterate can figure out how to download a movie or a television show in 4K in 10 minutes or less with modern internet speeds. It hasn't really done much to stop piracy. But what this law does do in a time where your refrigerator, your car, your baby monitor, your television go online is it allows the manufacturer to have control over your device after the sale. A Nest thermostat, anything else. These devices connect to the internet all the time. And because they have to connect to the internet in order to work, it means that the manufacturer can retroactively change the terms of the sale, decide that they want to start charging more money for it, shut the product down so it doesn't work anymore, and there's not much that you can do. This law was an abomination when it came out in the mid-90s. But it's even worse now that we live in a world where you need to reverse engineer your product in order to fix it so that it will simply work the way it did when you bought it. What I want to do here is I want to play back some of the testimony that is given before the Copyright Office in favor of this law, and I want to show you just what lying slimeballs some of the people are that will lobby in favor of this type of legislation that cuts against your consumer rights. It cuts against your ability to fix and deal with what you bought and paid for. And I want to go through all of this. There's a hearing that occurs every few years that's about 3 or 4 hours long, and you may have heard some of the testimony or some clips from it that I sprinkle across these videos. That's where I got this clip of this lovely gentleman.
It is in fact the manufacturers who have the relevant rights, not consumers.
And what I want to do is I want to go through these videos piece by piece and show you just how much these people lie in order to try and push against your consumer rights. And I want to try and raise awareness for this horrible law as much as I can. So the first one I want to do is I'm going to play you some testimony from Morgan Reed. He is the executive director at the Information Technology and Innovation Foundation. So he is going to be discussing why Section 1201 of the DMCA it should be pushed as a result of how it relates to medical devices. He is going to be lobbying against there being an exemption for repair in Section 1201 of the DMCA, which is, again, reverse engineering so that you can fix something. So I want to play his testimony, and then I want to show you what he's citing in his sources.
When Mr. Kerwin said, oh, well, it's only 1%. Well, that 1%, according to the FDA's MDR review from 2017, was 40 deaths, 294 serious injury, 38,500 patients and or operators exposed to potential harm. So when one says 1%, oh, gee, it's not that many, it's actually a lot.
Mr. Reed, all of our organizations are ISO 13485 certified, the same certification as the OEMs. Your numbers, if you look at how many of the OEM organizations have caused issues with imaging equipment because of their delays and lack of responsiveness, those numbers will be a heck of a lot higher than they are for the independent service organizations.
And Steve, I'd be happy to go to the FDA and talk with you about some of those failures. The Copyright Office is not the place to have that discussion. This is not.
I'm sorry, gentlemen, for the sake of the captioning, we actually can't be speaking over each other.
Service organizations provide a valuable service to the healthcare providers, and no difference between what an OEM is doing and a
just a moment.
The referee comes in to say, don't talk over each other. The Copyright Office does not want to be dealing with this. Congress kind of put this in the lap of the Copyright Office, and they're great sports. I have no problem with the Copyright Office, but they are being asked to be judge and jury on something that they really shouldn't. This legislation is garbage. I'm going to load up the document that he's referring to from the FDA. Let's read the actual report itself and see what it says. The first thing that I see on the first page in the executive summary of the report: the current available objective evidence is not sufficient to conclude whether or not there is a widespread public health concern related to servicing, including by third-party servicers of medical devices, that would justify imposing additional or different burdensome regulatory requirements. Rather, the objective evidence indicates that many OEMs and third-party entities provide high-quality, safe, and effective servicing of medical devices. Keep in mind, this is in the document he's using to say that independents are bad. We can't have this. A majority of the comments, complaints, and adverse event reports alleging that inadequate servicing caused or contributed to clinical adverse events and deaths actually pertains to remanufacturing and not servicing. And the continued availability of third-party entities to service and repair medical devices is critical to the functioning of the healthcare system. So not only are they saying that the evidence we have does not justify imposing additional or burdensome regulatory requirements like Section 1201 of the DMCA, but they're actually saying that the continued availability of third-party entities is critical to the functioning of the U.S. healthcare system. This is in the document that he is citing, and I will link the entire thing down below. Next up, it actually says over here when we're talking about the death.
Do you drive up the number of deaths?
It says 4,301 reports included 40 deaths and 294 serious injuries. Oh my God, all those people died as a result of Section 1201 being broken. No, it says on page 22, the data alone cannot be used to establish rates or reach conclusions about the existence, severity, or frequency of problems. Due to the limited information contained in the 334 MDRs of death or serious injury, we were not able to establish a conclusive relationship between third-party device servicing and the subsequent adverse event. And the best part of this is the actual numbers itself. So of the death reports that he's talking about, of those 40 deaths, only 3 contain sufficient information to definitively conclude that servicing caused or contributed to the death. And this is over the course of 25 years. This is between 1992 and 2017. So in 25 years, 3 deaths. Let's look over them. A fatality to a field service engineer while fixing a computed tomography scanner. A fatality to a field service engineer while servicing an MRI scanner, and a death that occurred after a patient lift rail was reinstalled incorrectly. So over 25 years, 1 patient has died as a result of independent repair in a hospital. And this is not related to hardware reverse engineering or software reverse engineering. It's a lift rail being installed incorrectly. That's handyman stuff. Has absolutely nothing to do with a law that says that you should be put in federal prison because you reverse engineered software. Continuing on this, many of these scary reports are not repair. They're remanufacturing. A majority of the reports alleging inadequate servicing actually pertain to remanufacturing and not servicing. The remanufacturing is not being done by the repairman. Next up, let's take a look at what the FDA themselves say. So he wants to cite this FDA document as the reason that Section 1201 should exist because, oh my God, all these people are going to die if people have the ability to reverse engineer and fix what they bought and paid for. Let me read this from the FDA's Director of Strategic Partnerships herself. The FDA's view is that an exemption from liability under 17 U.S. Code 1201 for a circumvention conducted solely for those purposes would not necessarily and materially jeopardize the safety and effectiveness of medical devices in the United States with respect to cybersecurity. The ability to conduct maintenance and repair of these devices to restore them or ensure they work in accordance with their original specifications and any changes to those specifications authorized for such devices or systems is critical to the continued safe and effective use of devices post-market. So a director at the FDA is saying the exact opposite of what this person is saying. So he's citing the FDA's document saying, look at how dangerous this is. Yet if you actually read the document and you read what the FDA themselves say, it says literally the opposite of what he said. And I don't blame Steve, the gentleman that was countering him, for not having this available immediately because he was in a hearing and he was supposed to talk right after this guy talks. So he can't just sit there and Google and read through a 40-page document to see that this guy was lying. And unfortunately, in the real world, the people who lie confidently tend to be able to get away with it in the moment because other people assume, well, you wouldn't just lie immediately, so I'm not going to sit here and spend half an hour Googling to figure out if you just bullshitted me. But that's exactly what Morgan Reed did, and shame on him. Now let's take a look at his use of the number 38,500. He tried to bundle 38,500 patients or operators that were exposed to potential harm together with the FDA verified numbers when he was citing this FDA report. So it's important to go over the fact that that 38,500 number is actually mentioned nowhere in this report. If you Control F in any of those FDA reports and you type in 500 or 38, you're not going to find 38,500. It doesn't exist. That number comes from AdvaMed. It comes from a document that was released by a medical device lobbying association whose entire mission is to oppose third-party repair. Their entire mission is to oppose people being able to have ownership over what they bought and paid for. In AdvaMed's submission, they said 6 manufacturers reported to the FDA 281 MDRs associated with third-party servicing, in which up to 38,500 patients and/or operators were exposed to the potential for harm. That's a lobbyist-generated statistic. That did not come from the FDA. They never said that. The lobbyist made that up. So the FDA report that Morgan Reed is invoking does not contain that number anywhere. He's mixing up a report from a lobbyist with something that came from the FDA without telling you that that second number came from AdvaMed and not the FDA. That is not confirmed harm. Again, potential exposure. What does potential exposure mean? That's not confirmed harm. That's not confirmed malfunction. That is not a confirmed injury. That is not verified by the FDA. That is not useful as an evidence of risk. It's a theoretical guess. They even themselves say that the manufacturer reported MDRs were not validated independent findings. In my opinion, Morgan Reed is a lying piece of shit. Number one, he took the scariest numbers, but he ignored the FDA's actual conclusions. He ignored everything they said about the fact that independent repair is a good thing, and we actually do support a Section 1201 exemption because that is critical to being able to use these devices in the field. He completely ignored the conclusion. He ignored the FDA's warning that MDR data can't be used to show risk. They actually say in their document that he is citing that you cannot use those numbers in the way that Reed used them, and he used them that way anyway. He used a number that is not in the FDA report. That 38,500 was a number that was pulled out of the ass of a trade association that makes money when you're not able to fix what you own. He ignored the FDA statements that these reports were related to remanufacturing, not normal repair, and oftentimes the remanufacturing is being done by the clients and members of that association, not actual independent repair. And he ignored that 2 of the 3 confirmed deaths were workers, not patients. I want to make this into a regular video series. You should not go to federal prison for 3 to 5 years because you modified what you bought and paid for so that it could work again. I think that's insane. And I want to show you just how disingenuous all of the scumbags for the past 12 years that have lobbied in favor of this legislation are. I'm going to be going over every single second of these hearings that have taken place over the past 13 years. I'm going to comb through every single piece of testimony that one of these opposition lobbyists made. I'm going to find every lie, and I'm going to present them in a video series that I put in a playlist on this channel, and I hope you enjoy watching them. That's it for today, and as always, I hope you learned something. I'll see you in the next video. Bye now. And if you're watching this Morgan Reed, go fuck yourself.